How's it going? Dave here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking all about the altered scale. You're going to learn how to play the scale, when to use it, then I've got a few licks and arpeggios that you can use to make the altered scale sound really cool. As usual, I've got a backing track down in the description and tabs for all the licks down below, all the scale shapes and all the arpeggios as well, so go and check that in the description. The altered scale is the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale. It is also known as the Superlocrian scale as well, but I'm going to be calling it the altered scale. Now, the altered scale consists of a tonic, a flat second, sharp second, a major third, a flat fifth, a sharp fifth or an augmented fifth, however you want to call it, and a flat seventh. We're going to change the names of some of these notes, so the flat second and sharp second are going to be called flat 9 and sharp 9. The sharp fifth is going to be called a flat 13. You'll see why in a second. Now, the altered scale is played over altered dominant chords, and an altered dominant chord is basically a dominant chord, so root, third, fifth and flat seventh, but with an altered tension. So your tensions are the notes that aren't part of that 7th chord, so 9th, 11th and 13th, and they're altered, so you raise them or lower them by a semitone. So we can potentially have flat 9, a sharp 9, flat 13th to a sharp 11th added to our chord. You can also alter the 5th as well, so you can have a flat 5th or a sharp 5th. Some common examples of altered dominant chords would be the dominant 7 flat 5, dominant 7 sharp 5, dominant 7 flat 9, dominant 7 sharp 9, aka the Hendrix chord. And you can mix up the fifths and ninths and add both into your chord as well. There's lots of different combinations. But the great thing about altered dominant chords is that they're interchangeable. So whenever you use one altered dominant chord, you could switch it up for another altered dominant chord. So let's take a look at how to play the altered scale. So we are going to be playing the A altered scale, and it goes like this: 5, 6, 8, 9 on the low E string. Then we're going to play 6 and 8 on the A string. Then we're going to play 5, 7, 8 on the D string, 5, 6, 8 on the G string, 6, 8 on the B string, 5, 6, 8, 9 on the high E string. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you a lick that uses this particular shape. But first, let's talk about how to use the altered scale. Of course, we play the altered scale over altered dominant chords, but these altered dominant chords need to resolve down a fifth. So if we're playing an A altered chord, and when I say an A altered chord, I can mean any one of the altered chords that I talked about previously. And it needs to resolve down a fifth, so a fifth below A would be D, so it needs to resolve to D. So in this backing track that I've created, it's a 2-5-1, so we're playing E minor 9, which is the 2, A altered, there's a few different variations in the backing track. And that is the fifth that resolves down to D, okay? It doesn't really work too well if it's not resolving down a fifth. So it's perfect for 5 chord in your key or for your secondary dominant. So yeah, let's take a look at the first lick. Okay, so that first lick played over our A altered chord is just a descending kind of thing, and it resolves on the 5th of our D major 9 chord. Okay. Now let's take a look at another shape you can use to play the altered scale. This is with the root on the 5th string, and this is how you play it. So 12, 13 with your ring finger and little finger on the A string, then 10, 11, 13 on the D string, then 10, 12 on the G string, then 10, 11, 13, 14 on the B string, then 11, 13, 15 on the high E string. Now let's take a look at a lick that I wrote using that particular shape. Just an ascending kind of thing, and then we descend at the end and resolve on the A, which is the 5th again of our D major chord. It's always nice to resolve on a chord tone of that one chord. Okay, so those are the shapes. You can definitely do scale runs when you're playing over your altered dominant chords, but what sounds really cool is to use arpeggios. And there's a few different arpeggios we can use when playing the altered scale. So the first one would be our augmented arpeggio. This is off the tonic of our scale, so the first degree of our scale. That means we're playing an A augmented arpeggio. So this is how you'd play an A augmented arpeggio. 5 on the low E, 4 on the A, 3 on the D, 2 on the G, 2 on the B, and 1 on the high E. Now the really cool thing about augmented arpeggios is that they are symmetrical, which means every note in our augmented arpeggio is the same distance apart, which means we could also play the same arpeggio 4 frets higher, a major third higher, because that's how far apart each note is. So from the 9th fret, we could play the same arpeggio shape, and we get the same arpeggio just starting on the 3rd. It's the first inversion. And then again, and again. You can just keep going up in thirds. Now here's a lick that I created using some augmented arpeggios. Cool, so we've used augmented arpeggios there. If we add a 7th on, we can get a dominant 7 sharp 5 arpeggio. And this works brilliantly over the altered chords. So let's take a look at how to play the dominant 7 sharp 5 arpeggio. This is going to be based off the 1st degree again, because that's the chord you make if you stack the thirds. 5th fret of the low E string, 4, 8 on the A string, 5, 7 on the D string, 6, 10 on the G string, 8, 10 on the B string, and 9, 13 on the high E string. So let's take a look at a lick that I wrote with this arpeggio. Okay, so that sounds really cool. There's still a couple more arpeggios we can use. So if we take the 2nd degree of our altered scale, which would be the 1st degree of our melodic minor scale, and stack thirds there, we get a minor major 7 arpeggio, which means we have a root, a flat 3rd, a 5th, and a major 7th. Now in relation to the first note of our altered scale, that arpeggio creates the flat 9, the 3rd, the sharp 5th or the flat 13, and the root. So you get those altered tensions within this particular arpeggio that sound really cool over an altered chord. So let's take a look at how to play the arpeggio. So we're going to be playing 6 on the low E string, then we're going to play 4, 8 on the A string, then we're going to play 7, 8 on the D string, then we're going to play 6, 10 on the G string, 10, 11 on the B string, and 9, 13 on the high E string. So let's take a look at a cool little lick that I wrote using this arpeggio. And finally, we have one more cool arpeggio we can use, and that is on the 4th degree of our scale. And this creates, if we stack thirds, we get a major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio. Now, in relation to our tonic, the notes in our major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio here are the 3rd, the sharp 5th or the flat 13, the root, and the sharp 9. So really cool arpeggio again because it contains those altered tensions of our A altered chords. This is how you play it. So we're going to play 9 on the low E string, 8 on the A string, 7 on the D string, 10 on the D string. I'm going to slide up to 11 on the D string, 10 on the G string, 10 on the B string, 8 on the high E string, and 9 on the high E string as well. So here's a lick that I've created using that particular arpeggio. So there you have it. There are some cool little arpeggios and scale runs that you can use with the altered scale over your altered dominant chords. Remember, the altered dominant chords need to resolve down a fifth for this to work. So they're going to work when you're playing the 5 chord in your key or when you're playing a secondary dominant. Now, the backing track I'm going to let running for a minute or so, just so you can have a little jam What it is a 2-5-1. As I said previously, we've got a E minor 9, then various selections of A altered chords as the repetitions go on, and then we finish and resolve on a D major 9 chord. So obviously you've just played D major for your 2 chord, then when it goes to our A altered chord, you're going to play the A altered scale, and then you're going to resolve to D major when the D major 9 chord is played. Have fun, and if you enjoy the backing track, don't forget to download the backing track down in the description. If you enjoyed the video, click like, let me know what you thought in the comments. Are there any other scales that you want to see? And subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so already. Make sure you hit that notification bell because there are plenty more videos and you're going to want to know about them when they're released. Now, I talked a lot about altered chords in this video. I've put together a video on altered chords so you can learn the shapes in that top corner there. And if you're looking to create some really interesting sounding chord progressions, you want to dive a bit deeper, then you can go and check out my book, Chord Charisma. The first 2 chapters are available for free. Those first 2 chapters show you how to create a foundational chord progression and add 7ths, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths to all those chords to make them sound really jazzy and cool. So I'm sure you'll benefit a lot from checking that out. I'll catch you in the next video, and here's the backing track. See you later.